Good afternoon. This is Mehmet Toy from Verizon, and I will be presenting the intent-based networking for connectivity and cloud services. This presentation is based on the article that I published in March in the International Journals of Advances in Networks. So you can also see the details in that article as well. What I would like to cover is basically the keywords that we think the customer is going to spell out to describe the services that they request. And then from those keywords, we formulate the intent for the customer and map that to our services. So I will describe the service models that we have and also give you two examples. One is how do we design the connectivity services based on user intents, and also how do we design the cloud services based on user intent. And I'll give you more details on the service design process. So the process for intent-based networking is, the first thing is really identify the user intent based on the keywords. And once we have that, we map that to the services that we offer. So as service provider, we have multiple services, and we want to have to be able to map those to our services. Now, once we are able to do that, then we will design basically the service and the solution, and we present to the customer. And we may end up with customer feedback for maybe some modifications is required in the choices that we have made. So then we take the customer input and modify the solution that we have. Now, at the end, we may actually update based on our experience. We may update our template. So I'm assuming that we will have templates, multiple templates with various fields to actually map the user intents to the services that we have. So therefore, that mapping will get modified as we have more experience. So intent keywords, I divide them into the following categories: service type, location, security level, availability level, SLAs, elasticity, and billing. Now, if you look at the service type, we would like to see whether the service is a connectivity service or just an application, or really the combination of the application and the connectivity. And also, we may want to see whether it's a wholesale or it is a retail service. So in terms of the location and users, you really need to look at the number of locations and number of users and the location type. Location type, it could be a commercial location, or it could be a non-commercial location, and maybe a stadium, maybe a mobile location. So we need to know that. Then of course, the availability and the security level, as I describe on the slide, and similar concept for the SLAs, whether it's a best effort or some performance constraints that the customer would like to see. Elasticity is another important actual category. That is whether the customer would like to have a control on the services they are getting, and maybe configurations, maybe modification to the services on demand basis. And also billing type, whether it is fixed, usage-based, or the per transactions. Now, for the elasticity, I gave one reference over here, but I did a lot of work on that. I believe I have multiple publications on those, but there is some work is going on in the MEF that you can access from the MEF website. Again, if you would like to see more details on it. Now, once we have those keywords from the user, now how do we formulate that so that we can actually map this to the services that we want? So first is the service type. As you can see, I have N function for multiple inputs. The input could be just connectivity, just application, and maybe connectivity and application. Let's say if I am asking for just connectivity, then I will have an input for the connectivity and nothing for application, which will be null, and same thing for connectivity and application field, that could be also null. So therefore, the aggregation of these inputs will tell me what service type that they want. Now, in terms of the location and connectivity, maybe they would like to have one location or multiple locations requiring WAN connectivity, or maybe LAN connectivity, maybe a combination of that. And the location type is whether less than 2, whether more than 2, and also whether the location is a commercial building, non-commercial, as I mentioned before, or mobile, and things like that, because that impacts how you really design the service and what service that you use. Of course, the security, availability, and SLA in the same perspective, same approach. And for the applications, you have application name. And once you have the application name, then we talk about the tenancy, whether it's a single tenancy or multiple tenancies, and network slicing, whether you would like to have network slicing or not, and then same thing for the elasticity and billing as well. As I said before, we are using end function to really aggregate the user inputs or user keywords so that we can end up with something that is usable for us in mapping the user intents to the services. Now, let's take a look at the service model. This is certainly a very simple description, really, to the service models. But in generically, I divide the services into 2 categories. One is the connectivity services, the other one is the cloud services. Cloud services consist of connectivity and applications. If you look at the connectivity services, first of all, you have underlying physical network that consists of network elements like routers, switches, and maybe the WDM equipments and so forth, and also links that tie those switches, routers together. And of course, then you end up with an end-to-end path for a given service. The service consists of logical components that laid on top of this physical infrastructure. Now, physical infrastructure, not those that I just mentioned, the switches, routers, and links, but also you will have computing and storage infrastructure. So really, all of them together form a network, and then you have connectivity service on top of it. When you come to the applications, an application does use the infrastructure like storage and the computing infrastructure. Maybe it may not have the same with what network is using, but at the end it's using that infrastructure. And of course, it could have network elements within that as well. So in other words, networking components within the applications is also a possibility. So in summary, you tie the applications and the connectivity together, you end up with the cloud services. By the way, I haven't put a reference over here. Again, I have made multiple publications on the cloud services. Those of you interested in the cloud services, you can look at those applications, those publications. But at the same time, the work is being done in MEF to standardize this. Hopefully, maybe in the first half of 2021. So with that, let's take a look at examples. Let's say I have a connectivity for a commercial building, a LAN connectivity that I would like to have. By the way, this is very, very simple example. The purpose is really to make my point. So there are a lot behind these tables. So then if you look at the first column on the left, the connectivity services are, let's say, software-defined LAN, wired LAN, wireless LAN, and Wi-Fi LAN. Let's say those are the services that I have. Now, if you look at the rightmost column, it says, look, SD-LAN is my first choice for a commercial location. So using the LAN connectivity, that's my first choice. Now, and others are secondary and the third choice. So in other words, what I do is, in the table in my template, I basically rank the choices. Rank them, of course, based on my own experience as a service provider, that I think that, look, this would be, SD-LAN would be a first choice for that kind of application, for that kind of scenario. And maybe wired LAN would be second choice and so forth. And if you look at the, for example, the security category, high security category, again, the SD-LAN could be first choice, and maybe wired LAN could be second choice. But if you look at the for high availability perspective, both SD-LAN and the wired LAN, if they use the redundant paths, they could be first choice as well. So in summary, from this the template, I can assume that the software-defined LAN may be considered as a first choice for high security and SLA compliant connectivity services for this commercial location. Now, as you can see in the best effort and the SLA column, I use it as not applicable. The reason for that is I am assuming that in the local area network environment, all of these services pretty much provide the similar type of performance. I could be wrong, and if that case, then we will basically indicate the numbers and then make rank the choices accordingly. So these are certainly modifiable, configurable parameters as we have more experience. Now, let's look at the cloud services. Suppose now, in addition to the connectivity that I just mentioned before, then I would like to have one of these applications like AR, VR, or the mixed reality, or gaming, or video conference. Then on the left side in the cloud services, I have connectivity plus application, but connectivity is non-internet. And the second category is I have network slicing on top of this non-internet connectivity and application. And third choice is the connectivity, but in this case, I use internet. And of course, the application there. So from there, let's say if I am really focused on the AR, VR, and MR application, then I look at the, if I have to satisfy certain SLAs, then network slicing plus this non-internet connectivity could be my first choice. And maybe others could be second and third choices. And if I look at the best effort case, suppose that I really don't care much about the performance, then clearly the third choice, which is the third service, which is the connectivity with internet and application is my choice. So as a result, from here, AR, VR with high security, high availability from previous slide with tight SLAs, then really the choice for me is the network slicing and the application and the non-internet connectivity that the cloud service that I need to offer to my customer to satisfy the customer request. Now, let's recap the service design process from the discussions that we had. So first is we have user, and the user enters its request from a user portal or from the user interface API. Again, using the keywords, hopefully that we got the right keywords that we selected. And from there, we can pick whether this is a connectivity service or the cloud service. And if it is a connectivity service, then I go further down. Is it a LAN connectivity, or is it a layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, or SD-WAN? Is it point-to-point or multi-point? And soon that I figure that out, the next step is I will look at the QoS or class of service constraints. And how do I satisfy the SLAs? And so that I pick the paths accordingly to satisfy those SLAs. And at the end, I come up with a service topology and, of course, the details of service design and pass it to the customer for feedback. And again, if customer has feedback, maybe I repeat this process to come up with an optimum solution that satisfies the customer request. Now, if it is a cloud service, in addition to what I have done for the connected services, and for the application segment, after the application name, whether I decide whether it is VNF or CNF, or by just simple, application doesn't really follow the ETSI standards at all. And from there, I need to determine whether it is the single tenant or multi-tenancy or the customer is requesting. And once I have those, then the next step for me is how do I satisfy the class of service or QoS requirements? And for that is maybe I need to determine where should I locate my application. Should I locate it in one of my data centers, or should I locate them in one of my NAC locations close to the customer? So in summary, I tie the connectivity and application segments together and provide display the topology and the service design to the customer for feedback. Now, let's take a look at a little bit detail how this process really works. So if you look at the top, I have user intents from the user keywords, and then from there, I determine whether it's a connectivity service or the cloud service. If it is connectivity service, let's say I go to the left. In the left, I determine whether it's a layer 1, layer 2, or layer 3, or SD-WAN. Of course, if you have different type of services, you can add those as well to the really as an option. So let's say on the left side, I pick the layer 1, and it's a point-to-point E-line service. And so once I have the E-line service, then I will look at the QoS and pick up a path that satisfies those delay, jitter, and loss requirements. And from there, I go to the basic topology and design blocks so that I can draw the topology and show the details of design and present it to customer. Let's say that is the just connectivity service. Now, if it is cloud service, in addition to what I have done on the connectivity side, I come to the cloud service side, and the cloud services I look at, is this a platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, an AR/VR, or something else. And from there, I will determine whether the request is a single tenancy or multi-tenancy. And if it is single tenancy, maybe I use just a virtual machine-based solution. And if it is the multi-tenancy, I may use a container type of solutions. But at the end is, once I decide that in order to satisfy the QoS, again, I have to determine the location of the application, and I will choose whether it will be one of my data centers or would be one of the MAC locations that close to the customers. So I tie connectivity and the application components together, and again, describe in a topology and a service topology, and also in a design details, and I pass it to the user. Now the user, if everything is perfect, user confirms the proposal, and when I receive the confirmation from the user as a service provider, then I can move forward with the design and the configuration and so forth. Now, if the user is not satisfied and they would like to have certain modifications, then basically go back to where we started initially. So that's really how the design process should work. And what I summarized so far is I summarized what the keywords that we expect to see from the user, and then how we map them to the services, and then from there, how we design the services based on those intents. Thank you very much.